Good evening, you handsome lot, and today we've got a little 2010 Mini One and the customer's complaining of the clutch slipping, so we're going to be doing a clutch replacement. So let's get involved and get this clutcheroonie replaced. First thing that we're going to be doing is starting off by disconnecting the battery first. Now with that battery disconnected, let's jump into the vehicle itself. Now we need to remove the subframe on this vehicle. So we're coming into the vehicle, removing the steering column, the universal joint off the bottom there, and then we're going to jump round, put our seatbelts through the steering wheel to stop that clock spring around the back there snapping. If we have to put the ignition on at some point, that is going to secure it in place. Now you're probably wondering why I'm standing at the front of the vehicle with the front end off. Well, I'm going to show you, and this is something that Autodata or any technical information doesn't give you in their repair times. They don't allow for cars getting older and corrosion. On these, you've got to take this front crash bar off, but to do that, there's two bolts holding it on at the front here. Look on the back. They're rotten as a pair, and there's nothing on there for me to grab to, for me to undo. So I've had to take the front bumper off, and we're going to have to try and either drill them out or split these captive nuts and smash the captive nuts off. Book times do not allow for stuff like this. Right, well, as you can see, I've gone ahead now. We've put the grinder through it. I put a slot in the nut, and I got my air chisel and brrr, we got it out. It's not pretty, but they're off. I'm gonna have to repeat that process on that side now. Now with both these bolts now removed, we need to go ahead and get the exhaust system off. Yeah, over the years I've done no end of these little mini clutches where I've taken the complete engine out in one, because that's how they were designed to be worked on. Anything needs doing, pull the engine straight out the front. And people have said to me, oh, you do the subframe off. You know what? I think it's probably easier to pull the engines. Got to remember on these as well, there's a little bracket, a strut brace that goes from one side of the chassis to the other. Now these bolts can snap. Luckily enough, they have come off. So right, we're going to go ahead now and get this full exhaust system off. And we run into more problems again. These brackets underneath for the subframe, these are a 16mm, which they don't want to be a 16mm anymore. They're corroded that much, they've dropped down to a 15mm. So I had to thrash a socket on, and thankfully they're coming undone. This side, come undone fairly simple. This is just going to be one of them videos where we're running into problems, but we're going to get there. We can't put a downer on it, or can we? Right, well, as you can see now, I've got this subframe off. Now always remember to unplug the electrical connectors on the steering rack. Now look at all this room that we've got now. Stacks of it. I've removed the dry shaft, we've drained the gearbox oil out of it. I'm going to drop it down now and undo the engine mount at the top. As you can see, we've got the vehicle back down to working height. We've removed the gear cables around the back here. Rather than undo these stupid little plastic clips that sometimes break, we've undone the E12s which secure the bracket to the gearbox. I've also undone the 3 bolts on the engine mount, 1, 2 and 3 down the back there. We've left that one in, that one there, and then we can take the vehicle back up now and get this gearbox out. Very rare that I lose any interest in any jobs, but this one, be glad to see the back of it. Right, as you can see now, we flip a rooney. We've got my apprentice, which is the blue one, which is holding the engine up, and then the transmission jack, well, which is holding the transmission. We've undone all the bell housing bolts, and we put them into a little piece of cardboard so we know exactly which bolt is going where, because they are different lengths and different sizes. I've only got one, I don't know whether you can see it, which is right at the back now, that needs to undone, and then we can get this boxer-rooney out. And And as you can see, there is one gearbox now successfully removed. We can remove the clutch now off the flywheel with 6 E-turns. Just with a little bit of magic now, that clutch plate and pressure plate is now off that engine. Have a little look. It is just catching the rivets. And this car was still driving just about. If you showed it any power, it would slip. Right, let's get the brand new one fitted. Now tell me that these cheap clutch alignment tools ain't the best. They are just insane. Now with that clutch plate fitted to the pressure plate, make sure that it is aligned all the way around and it is nice and equal, because if it's not equal, that gearbox will not be sliding onto that clutch. Simple as that. Right, so we get it on and torqued up to that clutch now is fitted back to the flywheel. What we're going to do to torque it up, get a trusty little Allen key, put it in the bell housing holes, put it on the ring gear like so, and we can get our torque wrench and give it a good torqueroony and make sure that they are all tight. With everything now torqued up to spec-a-rooney, we've dated it, we've hashtag sent it. Let's chuck it into a bit of a time lapse now and get this gearbox back in. But before we do that, we're going to chuck a brand new thrust bearing in the gearbox and make sure that all the pivot points in there are nice and clean. We're going to just put a little bit of red rubber grease on them. Once we've got that gearbox back in now, we've put both drive shafts in, we can go ahead and we can top the gearbox back up with the Sealy pump. Absolutely brilliant. I got it for doing the JSG services. That now is that oil going in there beautifully. Now before I go any further with this job, I'm brushing my floor up, because there's nothing worse I hate is walking around with rust on the floor. It does my head in, so I'm going to have a little bit of a brush up. Now with my floor nice and clean, we're going to go ahead and get that subframe back on. But before we do, all the nuts and bolts, we're going to give them a little bit of a coating with some copper grease, and we're going to get me and my lovely little apprentice, Ben, whatever he shall be, and he's going to give me a hand. Just like that, that subframe is now back on. Every single nut and bolt that we've touched or we've removed, we have smothered them in copper slip. Now copper grease is absolutely perfect when used right. Remember the bolts that we had to cut off at the beginning? We put new nuts and bolts up there. Now it is 25 to 5. I've had enough for one day, considering I didn't start this till, well, since about 12:30. It's done my head in. Normally these are done within a few hours, but no. Nuts and bolts, corrosion, time wasted, or a time killer should I say. I have a little bit of a drink-a-rooney now, put my tools away, and I will probably see you tomorrow morning. Right, well we are back at this little Mini. We're nice and fresh. I was kind of hoping last night that the little fairies had come in and finished the job off. We've got lots, well, quite a few bits to put back together. I'm going to get the exhaust chucked on now, track rod ends, anti-roll bar links either side. Yeah, lots of planning to do, and I'm going to show you all the little bits and bobs that have broke and how I'm going to get round of securing them. Right, well I've now got that exhaust on underneath there. We've had to put a new nut and bolt on that exhaust clamp there. It doesn't look pretty, but it's functional. And don't forget to knock your locking tabs over on your dry shaft locking nuts, like that. Now we've got all the suspension coupled back up to the vehicle. Now I'm in a position where I need to put the front bumper on. Now when removing the front bumper and the grills, there's little screws, let me show you. You flip it round, that have snapped off here, and it can be a bit of a nightmare, but I think what we're going to do, there's enough plastic around there where we can either put a self-tapper in it just to secure it, and I have got, which I bought a while ago, a great big bag of assorted plastic trim clips. Now they were off Temu, I think it was about £4.50 for 300 of them, and they've been a lifesaver. Absolutely lifesaver, that little bag has, because it's so handy, you know, for the little plastic, for these where they break and stuff. There's not much you can do, they just break. But yeah, let's get this front bumper on. Right, that front end is pretty much back on. I've only got to put the grille on, but I want to show you this. What I've had to do, we put some little self-tappers in. It's not pretty, it's secure, it's never going to come off. I'm not spending any more time drilling and faffing about. It's secure. Let's get the grille on. Finally, that car now is all back together, and we give the engine bay a little bit of a clean down. And the reason why I do this is because the customer may go home and open the bonnet and everything's nice and dirty. They might turn around and say, well, what's been done? But at least if it looks nice and clean, something looks as if it's been done, if that makes sense. Right, let's get in the car now. We've got everything disconnected, all my seatbelt from around the steering wheel. To make sure we've got no restrictions whatsoever when we're putting the foot on the clutch. We can get on the, give it a big starter rooney, put it in gear, we've got drive. Beautiful. If we hold the foot on the clutch now and the foot on the brake, we should be able to stall it. Absolutely perfect. At long last, this little mini one is now off the ramp. It just goes to show that these older cars, well, as these cars are getting older, you are going to start running into problems, and technical information, repair times isn't allowing. So this car, I think, just say for instance it's got 4 hours on it, it's now probably taken me 6.5 ish, a little bit more, because of a couple of rusty bolts. So yeah, I'm going to take the car down the road now for a little bit of a test drive, make sure that everything's perfect. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. I'll probably see you now on the next one. I think I had the car dropped off last night to me from Leeds for a wet belt, which I've got for 2 weeks, which I'm going to do in my own time, I think. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video, and let's get it sent.